Welcome back to Fast Market. Kevin Hinks and Nick Theodorakis back for our cash tag segment. Now I'd like to bring in the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, Mr. Andy Swan, to the show to talk about the data that we've been waiting for, Andy. And here's what I like about LikeFolio data. You tell kind of a story, don't you? Nvidia's clear the leader, but your one graph that I'm looking at here, the mentions count, it looks like, tell me if I'm wrong, the stock is catching up to the mentions, some of the excitement about the mentions. Give us your thoughts, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, from a going into earnings perspective, I think, we're really comfortable saying Nvidia stock and its recent rally is well-deserved and pretty much prices the stock right for the moment. It's been an incredible run, but Nvidia has grown at an incredible pace and has caught, a few more massive tailwinds to justify all of this. The move lower this week really took us out of an overbought situation, I feel like, going into earnings, and put us much more into neutral territory going into the earnings release. But, long term, when I look at Nvidia and I look at LikeFolio data, look, we're seeing mention growth, web visit growth accelerating on a year-over-year basis, and that accelerating, if that makes sense. That things are moving up even faster. On top of that, Nvidia's consumer happiness levels absolutely surging to levels that we, quite frankly, do not see in the semiconductor space. A lot of people complain about the computers, the data centers, those type of investments that they make. They aren't overly positive most of the time, but to see Nvidia's consumer happiness levels surge as mentioned volume and consumer demand surges is a very, very good sign. And so along with that, we have to look at, what is the driver? The obvious driver right now is the development of artificial intelligence applications. That also accelerating at a very, very rapid pace. And when you add it all together, what we see is a market leader that is dominating peers in terms of mind share, in terms of, the actual value of the product, in a industry that has an incredibly massive tailwind that is only growing in multiple sectors. Even outside of our artificial intelligence, the automotive sector, the data center sector, the computing sector, all of these are, getting into extreme tailwind territory. And so when you have that, it's pretty simple. You just say, who's the best of the best, who makes the best product, who has the market dominance, who has the consumer happiness. All answers lead to Nvidia. So we really think that the recent move in the stock is completely justified, and we very much see that continuing for years to come.
Andy, I know you touched on it, and I know your data is a little longer term, but you look at the revenue numbers, up expected to crest over $20 billion this year. This quarter. EPS revisions in the last 90 days, 37 upgrades, no downgrades from what I'm seeing. Longer term, and you mentioned, the stock maybe coming back down a little bit, has put it more into sort of the normal range. But what do you think is driving this last sort of 4 or 5 day blip? Because there hasn't even been a hiccup in the last 6 months. What are you guys seeing? Anything short term like that's causing this?
Yeah, I really think it's profit taking. I think that there's some fear that the stock is significantly overbought. You look at the stock chart and it makes sense. If you've been holding for a while, you could be sitting on a double or a triple, and everything that you hear about in the headlines is about how important this earnings event is. You look at the expected move, it's pretty massive. There's pretty good reasons to take some money off the table here if you've been around for quite a while. But if you're in it for the long term, I think, everything is looking good. And when people ask me, one of the questions I get is, why is AI different? Why isn't this just another dot-com boom? And I will say the big difference this time is that with the dot-com boom, you had these companies relying on customers that were heavily in debt, borrowing, or having to raise money from new investors in order to buy their products. Nvidia's customer base, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, Apple, Google, Microsoft, that customer base has $500 billion or more in cash on the balance sheet ready to deploy. So it is very different this time their customer is well funded and can be counted on well out, 2-3 years in advance. This isn't a just a simple gold rush. I think this is transformative technology with the right type of customer base.
Yeah, Nvidia's receivables, when they do 30, 90, or 60 days, it's like 30, 90, or 60 seconds. These people have the ability to pay. They're not cash strapped at all. Andy, one last thing before I let you go. When you look at ARM Holdings and that stock, what it did, you look at Super Microcomputer and that stock, what it did, then you look at Palo Alto today. Is there any worries about just any type of deceleration? Your data is pretty strong. The only really downside of your data is the stock price may have caught up to the exuberance, right? But besides that, your data is 100% positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Long term, 100% positive. And what I'm going to say is, be ready. If we do get a significant down move post earnings, I think it's one of those blips on the radar that becomes a very long term, very potentially profitable opportunity. So I would be really licking my chops for that. And going into this earnings event, I think there's so much hype around this earnings event when the reality is Nvidia's revenues and profitability is actually fairly predictable. I mean, they are out quarters, if not years, in terms of demand and order flow. And so I think I might be selling as much premium as I can, especially on the downside put premium, because if you want to give me shares, at the end of this week or at the end of this option cycle at 20% below where we are today, I'm pretty happy to take that.
Andy Swan, we appreciate you coming on, giving us the big data today. It's a unique day, but like I said, when Goldman says this is the most important stock ever, it's kind of something we should spend some time looking at. Andy Swan, thanks for coming on as always. Good to have you on Fast Market.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Nick. Now I get to look at a more